Man, the Angels are killing it right now. Oh, okay, not so much. Excuse me. Ooh, excuse me.
I put the invitation out Friday in the classroom. We'll see.
Well, if fair is the only one, we can always, I mean, we're fairly flexible. We could just bump it to next week and keep going, right?
We could. Farrah's on the phone, looks like.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Am I the only one? Nobody won today?
So far,
Oh, thank you.
you got an
Oh, okay.
email. You got an email Friday announcing the class, and then you got more email today with some of the documents, right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just trying to make sure I told everybody.
Yes, you did. And I was just trying to make sure that I was going to be able to make it. And I made it. I'm so happy.
We're happy that you're here. We're going to give it probably 10 minutes to see if people join us. We may end up punting down the road a little bit here to try to get everybody here. Oh, there's another person. Yay.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself because I'm actually at the store, but I'm still listening in.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to give everybody a few more minutes to join us.
I'm so excited that I have Hulu Live now and I can watch baseball. It's so cool. We could just start too, and if they come in, they come in. I'm going to apologize also because I don't look so hot, but I had foot surgery and I'm not allowed to be on my foot at all. And I haven't really listened to that. So it ended up really bad.
All right. Well, it may just be the four of us.
That's fine.
You want to sit and join us?
I see someone. I see half a head.
Is she muted?
She must be.
Are you? We can't hear you if you're talking to us. Hey, there you go. Hi, Bev.
Hi, how are you?
Doing fine.
Good.
We're glad to have you. You know that this is a totally optional meeting, right?
Right, I'll stick for a while.
Okay, okay, good. I didn't want to make you feel like you had to be here, but I'm glad to have you now that you are.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. We were just trying to figure out if a few more people were joining us. We sent out a bunch of invites last week, and uh-oh, did we lose somebody?
Sarah. She'll be back.
Oh, she just turned her picture off. Okay. So hopefully people join us. But yeah, I think, Jenny, you're right. We'll go ahead and get started and see what happens and go from there. Let me share my screen. And
Oh, yeah.
there's the join code for our class. So if you would go ahead and join that class, and then if you have, open your class, and you'll find out in that class is our presentation for today, including the sign-in sheet. And so we need you to click on that sign-in sheet so we know who's here.
Every
It's
time
too hard
I
to switch from text messaging on the phone to typing on a real computer. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I'm still fumbling my way around Zoom. This is for people that are not tech savvy, this is a nightmare.
they'll become tech savvy.
Right?
We have no choice.
How are you liking it, Bev? Are you having a Zoom, everybody?
I do. I do. I don't like it at all. But, and I was having trouble because Chowchilla, you know, for 2 or 3 weeks, they were hacked. They lost all their attendance. They lost all their emails. They weren't able to teach from school. They all had to go home. It's been a nightmare for 2 or 3 weeks with Chowchilla.
Wow.
They were being held for ransom.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
How did they fix it? Did they have to just blow everything
It's
over?
still not completely fixed. It's a mess. It's been since almost the beginning of school. So I do a lot of emails, texting. I've done a little Zoom, but I'm just trying to stay in touch the best that I can. The teachers were out for a week or two for teaching from home on you know, it's been really bad.
So for 2 weeks there, nothing happened anywhere.
No, because the district was being held for ransom for money.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Was it a parent or
Pardon me?
who was it that they know of?
They don't know. They don't know where it came from. Apparently, it's relatively common now with all this going on. I heard of I'm not sure if it was University of Colorado, but they actually paid to get their get things put back together because it is still a mess.
My God.
Yeah, their Aries, you know, that they do all their
Ugh.
grades, all their attendance, wiped out, completely gone.
Jeez.
And all the emails from more than 2 weeks ago or 2 or 3 weeks ago, gone, disappeared.
Oh my God, I would be devastated.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. It's been tough. It's been tough to stay in touch with the teachers. Yeah.
What do you do?
Pardon me?
What is it you do?
I'm a mentor for new teachers. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's all she does. She's retired otherwise.
I am. I'm retired. I have 10 teachers though. I have 8 from Madera County, and then I have 2 from UC Merced, which is not a fun. I'll just say it's not fun working for Merced. It's a lot different than this program. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, but it's been an interesting year so far.
Is
Bev, I
it,
should-
is it different from UC Merced? Are they like interns or something like that?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a couple. Yeah, and it's a totally different kind of program. Yeah.
Yep. All right, well, let's move forward.
I don't
So-
think I'm really signed in yet. I think I missed something. I don't know. Can you tell Steve if I don't know if I did or sign in? I don't think I signed in. I don't.
He's signing you in.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Okay.
So this first slide, I don't know if you guys are TikTokers or anything, but this lady is a principal, and she's fantastic, and her views on things are hysterical. And I will watch this and laugh, but this is her doing yard duty during COVID. What is that? Can you guys hear it at all?
Not really.
Me either. Okay. We'll have to, let's skip that again, because I don't know.
Hold on. All right.
Yeah, you can't hear her. If you haven't seen her, her name is Dr. Zeisner, and she has some amazing lighthearted stuff, but she also has some very serious education stuff, and she has a very interesting view on things. She's a professor now at Gonzaga, obviously in the education department, but she is fantastic, and she's hysterical.
All right, let me try again.
Well, this will be interesting at the Hunger
Can you
Games.
hear it?
How many
Yeah.
people up in that tree with you? 6 feet apart. Oh, sweetie, I'm Ronan's girlfriend today. Sure, I can hold your hand. You just got to stay 6 feet apart. Lenny, reminder too. 6 feet apart in the tree. Climbers are closed. Basketball courts are closed. No King's Court. I'm the only queen here. Stop trading masks. They're not Pokemon cards. Third reminder, spread out in the tree. Be a squirrel. We got a runner. Can we set up a 6-foot parameter, please? You know I'll come up there. I'm 30 pounds lighter. I'll scale that tree like a lumberjack. Ahmed, Tabitha, Stacy, Dora, get apart from each other. Yeah, buddy, you need to go pee. You go right ahead, sweetie. Mrs. Eisner's lost her whole teacher bladder. You play with all the frogs, snakes, turtles, whatever you want. Just stay away from people. Oh, buddy, you ran straight into that tree. You're going to need a lot of wipes for that. You're upset because you're not the line leader? Sweetie, there's a sticker. Everyone is a line leader now. It's so bad. I can see why you like it up here. Hey, everybody drop your balls.
She's so funny. There's another guy, I'll have it next time, but he's very subtle. And he gets on there and he's all, this is the principal, and he says the funniest stuff. And he has all these parent calls, and so he goes off of that. It's hysterical.
That was funny.
All right, so some of the things that we've covered so far, we've talked about classroom expectations, particularly the instructional environment, and we looked at procedures and using Teach-To's to teach the procedures. We talked about building rapport, particularly in a digital world, and we had a very good discussion on how people learn last week and how to measure engagement, and we talked about that in depth. Our next components are breakout session number 2. Today is part 1 is instructional strategies. And we're going to talk about knowing your students, particularly learning their learning style and your learning style and how they go together. Improving your learning studio, especially in a digital world, and maintaining critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. Next month, we're going to be talking about interventions. We're going to talk about behavioral interventions. We're going to talk about academic interventions, and we're also going to talk about social emotional interventions. We are even going to bring in our PBIS expert to help us with some of those interventions and behavior.
I lost you.
You lost it?
I did. I lost you. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Aw,
That's okay. Keep going. I'll figure it out.
okay.
The learning curve.
So now we want to talk about lesson planning in the virtual classroom. And today focus is on AVID strategies and how they can be modified to fit into the classroom. So I wanted to ask, how's it going? And specifically, what type of support are our teachers getting surrounding lesson planning? What's going really well? And what's a struggle? So we just want to hear shout outs from everybody. How's it going? What's going well, and what is really a struggle?
Well, Bev kind of already talked about that in the beginning, regarding just this whole computer thing.
Mhm.
I think Farah's probably on mute.
Yes, I was going to say what's going really well for me is having two computer devices. That's going very well, like having one, but they're both on Zoom, but one set up so I can see my kiddos in chat, and the other one I'm able to do my lesson plan, so it feels somewhat kind of normal where I feel connected to where I can see them and they can answer to me in chat, so that's going really well.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're using two monitors so you can monitor the chat and the classroom at the same time.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
makes
go
clutter.
ahead. Yeah, I think most teachers are using two monitors, and I know that Chowchilla has issued cameras to be mounted on the on top of the monitors, because apparently it's a lot better than just the Zoom, so they have actual cameras that they're using, so it makes it a little easier for them.
They can
So
move around.
that's, they can move around a little bit, and so it really helps them quite a bit. Their struggle is, I've talked to all of the teachers, and some of the struggles they're having as far as making connections with the students is they will teach a lesson and ask a question, and they'll just have a student turn off the monitor and leave the meeting, just walk away. So they're having troubles like that, or just things like that.
Yep.
Or just stare at them blankly.
That funny guy I was talking about, he has a whole spiel on, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Okay, we don't need to take the video into the bathroom with you. No. I understand you have to go, but you can. And he goes on to that whole thing. I was dying.
That'd be hilarious. I'll have to look for that.
I'll look for his name before we go. Okay.
The cameras off thing is a common thing I'm hearing from almost all of the teachers.
Yep.
I'm talking to one teacher that didn't quite know what to do about it, and at first it was 2 or 3 kids that were turning off their camera, and then the other kids figured out that there was no consequence to turning off their camera. So now there's only 2 or 3 kids with the camera on, and so he has a big problem that he has to overcome. I talked to another principal at a county school, and his thing was, our students are in such a place where their internet isn't very good, and so if they have their cameras on, then everything freezes. So
Yes.
their system is, right? So they got to turn their cameras off, and they'll turn them on briefly, answer a question or give a thumbs up, and then turn their cameras back off again. Otherwise, the kids are dropping off, and it's technical issues and not disobedience. But I still think we're circling the wagon on that. We still need a solid expectation and a procedure for getting kids to get their cameras on.
Yes.
Well, I think those symbols that they have too, the thumbs up, the thumbs down, whatever, I think if we did check for understanding as we went, like Farah just did, then we don't even need to have the camera on, right? That we're still getting them to respond. I mean, granted, they could probably pay their little brother to do it, but the fact is they'll probably at least be more likely to, we can check that they're there at least.
Yep. What about cheating? Has anyone heard anything about cheating?
I haven't heard anything about that, but there's certainly the opportunity to do that. It's a whole new ball game for, teaching now. There's all kinds of things, and kids are very clever. If it's going to be figured out, they'll figure it out.
Well, and I think, obviously plagiarism or access to that is going to be continuous. And so I think for teachers trying to fight that is going to be futile. So if they are able to incorporate it kind of like an open note type situation, they're still learning. It's just not rote or memorization. I mean, which is fine. I don't know that we really want them, but we have to be creative in that and make it, basically empower ourselves with it instead of feeling like they're cheating us, right? Like flip the script on them.
Well, the question came up with my high school kids at home because they said they aren't doing it, but that it's easy to get on their phone and Google an answer to a question really quick. And so I talked to a high school teacher about that, and she said, well, we're trying to ask questions that are harder to Google, but how do you handle that when it comes to assessments? I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, you have to do open note probably.
That's one of the other teachers at AP Chem said, we're just going to have open notes because I know you're going to have them open anyway. So let's call it good.
Yeah.
But then his questions are hard.
Yeah. We decided to do that too as well, just say open notes and hopefully encourage them to even try to do like the best they can do. Because even with open notes, as everybody knows, you can do all the notes wonderfully and well, but if you don't really know or participate in class on what you're doing, then really your notes are only going to help you so far.
Right.
You're stuck on the first question forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has anyone had any classes hacked or students show up that are not students in the classroom?
I have had a couple hacks,
Uh-huh.
and all the way from Sanger. I think the student was from Sanger.
Wow.
And why? They probably won't go in their own classroom, but they're willing to go hack everybody else's classroom.
It's a challenge.
Right.
Something to do.
I know.
You have that much smarts and giftedness. Why are you not using it to learn?
Clovis had a big issue with people hacking and then bullying very aggressively on the chats.
Oh yeah.
And I'm talking younger kids. I mean, some of the stuff that was said was horrid. Just Sorry.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's move on.
You ready?
Jenny, I think this is you. Yes.
All right. So with effective lesson planning, clearly you have to have a learning objective. We know that, right? But where it gets tricky is it's really important for us to know our kids, and knowing our kids at the level we know them in the beginning, and we haven't had any real conversations with them or what have you, we're pretty in the dark. And so one of the things that is, I think, really important is that we know their abilities and their learning style and their interests. And in doing so, learning the style, we have little tests that you can give, and it's really cool. And what we used to do when we had the full session is have them assess their class and then put their kids into a chart so they can see just the dominating or the dominant learning style, and explain that you want to hit all those students, not just the majority. You want to make sure you're hitting them all. And that was beneficial. I think one of the things that we ran into, of course, was like the lower grades and how they assess that. And so one of the things we came up with was, interview them, talk, sit at a table real quick, ask them a couple questions. That's a little different right now. So you could do one-on-one meetings and maybe get that done. And the other thing was questionnaires, but parents and student questionnaires, because the parents will give you a little more information than the child will regarding family situations and stuff like that. And that makes it a lot easier for you to go forward and to be sensitive. I heard not a story, it's somebody very close to me. Her dad killed himself. And that week, somebody showed a video or had a topic, I can't remember exactly what it was, regarding death. And the suicide was fairly recent. And not knowing that, the teacher didn't know. And when they discussed it, it was a really tough thing for this child, who then had an anxiety attack and the whole bit. So it's important for us to know their situations as well. We all know that. I mean, there's stuff we may not even know because some parents don't even know that's abnormal, that dad's in prison or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us to ask the parent and the student what their interests are, hobbies, and so on. And then maintaining expectations. This is all new to us. It's a huge learning curve, but we can't lower our expectations on ourselves or on the kids, because they're still responsible to learn and we're still responsible to teach. And while that is a very different platform now, we're still kind of there. The other thing is, when you're doing lesson plans, try to remember communication, critical thinking, and collaboration. These are all spun off of an AVID. AVID is Wicker, what is it? Writing, inquiry, reading, and collaboration. And so because we're now virtual, I kind of tweaked it a little bit, because having been in the classroom and taught online for quite a while, that these three things I found were what is missing in a lot of classrooms, especially online, because it's just easier to sit here and lecture than it is to incorporate creativity, because we're scared and we're not familiar with this. So I don't know if I can advance the slide or not, Steve. So getting to know your students, interest surveys, questionnaires, and learning style assessments. The younger kids, what we had was some of the teachers take the surveys that are available online and either, like I said, interview or make it into pictures. And that helped. And so some of the younger grades, obviously it can't be very extensive because you'll lose their attention span, but have them do pictures or whatever, point and or circle, whatever you can get them to do. And you could do that online. You could probably do it on Kahoot, different things like that, to get these kids so you can get an idea of exactly what you're working with. And it was funny, I did this with my AVID kids. I taught high school and it was not what I expected at all. The results were like, I was like, oh my God, really? And I had no idea that it would be that way. So I think it's very enlightening as well for us to know exactly what they not only enjoy, but how they learn. Parent-student questionnaires. Go ahead, Steve. Again, I think the parent and the student should do them separately. The parent can help the student, but I want the parent to have their own input on another form usually. And ask them hobbies, after-school activities, extracurricular, church. Parents will usually give you areas of concern or areas of strength. And again, parents tend to be very candid, even more so than the child, which is unusual most of the time. But parents, it's interesting to me, the views that parents have. We sent out a survey for AVID one time and asked them, okay, how do you feel about your child's future? And 80% of them said they don't see their child going to college, but they were in AVID, which is directly connected to college. And the kids, 100% said they were going to college. And I thought, what a huge difference, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's sad too, because I think parents unknowingly sometimes put boundaries on this.
Exactly.
You know, and we took some of the parents to college campuses, and the parents would look around and they're like, these people look like my kids. We're like, yeah, they are your kids, you know? And they were like, but that's not what we expected, because they think there's a certain stereotype of the college educated person. And so that was so revealing to us, and also made us realize why our kids think the way they do, whether it's cultural or just familial, or what different impacts make them think that college is unattainable.
Yeah. That is interesting. The expectations of the parents is very powerful too.
It really is.
For a child, yeah, it is. I've seen that, yes.
Even in my family, because it was clear that I was going to college. There was no questions. Like, I was either going to college or working, and I wasn't going to work, so I went to college. But my brother and sister never had that same expectation put on them. And neither one of them went to college. Yeah. And I thought, I was the oldest, so I'm sure my parents were a bit idealistic when I came along. But then the other two didn't do anything. And usually in families, if one goes, the other go, you know, you change the...
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, but apparently not in our family, So learning style assessments, you know, there's a variety. There's different modalities. You can take different tests. I basically keep it to the 4. Go ahead, Steve. this one. You know, are they visual learners? Read and writing, so oral. When I was younger, I was very much the oral learner. I could even sleep in class and still remember what was said. But as I'm older, that doesn't work so much. So this is a test that really should be given every time you have a new class, because even if you had them last year, as they mature, it can change. And then, of course, kinesthetic. And one of the things I've learned is everyone does pretty well with kinesthetic, except for the child that doesn't like to be in groups and who is petrified of that.
Mhm.
But and I used to, believe it or not, be very petrified of that. But I enjoyed working with other people. I just didn't like presenting. So you can make adjustments. You don't have to force that child. You know, the kid that you know is painfully shy and is going to go throw up, if you make him talk, give them a role that's maybe quiet and not outspoken in the background, that kind of thing, but they're still participating, they're still engaged. It maybe just won't be the loudest person in the group. And I think most of this, because you guys have a copy of this, I won't go through it all, but you can see the different traits. And as I said before, we had the teachers before put it into a chart like this so they could see exactly how their classes fell. And most teachers had 2 strong or 3 strong, right about the same. And that was interesting for them as well. Any questions so far? Okay, go ahead, Steve. Here's a list of assessments. And then, well, 2 of them that I liked. And then the bottom 2 were just examples of how you can get it done for kids who maybe are non-readers or so young. This is one for the elementary.
This one?
Yeah. And see, this is one where I could see if we were in a classroom, hopefully again, we will be someday, where you have your small groups, right? And you're in the half moon table and you can ask each kid and do a quick thing and then later go back and compile it and see where your kids stand. And it gives, I think, particularly new teachers, a really good direction of what their lessons need to incorporate, because I think we get caught up on the objective and making sure that we have the assessments to check for understanding, but we don't understand that half the class is tuned out. And so if we can hit all their different learning styles, not only are we going to be more effective, but they're going to enjoy it more and we won't lose them as quickly.
So this is an online one?
Yes. I know that some of the teachers in the past have just printed that out and then done either the oral or had the kids do it if they could read and write on their own. Because some of the kids didn't used to in the old days, they didn't all have access to computers. Now they do, so.
Steve, are we recording this?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great.
All right.
Steve, you can take the test later. It's important for us also to make sure that we were just talking about this. You know, the kids bullying, the kids crashing, turning their cameras off. That's where we have to really set up those norms. And I think many teachers will do the norms, but they don't know how to teach to it. So one of the things that we really pushed in the first couple of sessions was you've got to walk them through it. You've got to show them what you expect before you can hold them accountable for that. And I think that might be a big gap that's happening right now. We expect everybody to know how to do this, including the students, and they don't.
Bev, do they have digital learning norms for the district, or is it up to the site, or is it up to the teacher?
You know, I think it's been up to the teacher, but that is, you know, and I'm not even sure that all the teachers are teaching, you know, the expectations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are expectations, there's norms, but I don't know if it's like district wide or how they're doing that. But that is something I'm definitely going to be talking to the teachers about, because I know there's a couple that they struggle with students in the class, and so they're really struggling with, you know, having to do Zoom meetings. So that's definitely a topic for conversation.
Well, and I think because this was thrown on us so quickly with little time to such uncertainty and little time to truly train, and not knowing how to train. Really, that's what the district doesn't know what to do. And so I feel like the tail's wagging the dog in a sense, because we don't even know how to do this. We're just now learning how to do it in classroom. How do you teach the norms? This is how I want you to sit down. This is how I want you to raise your hand. And now all of a sudden we flip the script, and here we are on a whole new platform trying to figure this out. And I think more than ever, it's probably really important that our teachers understand, teach it so you can hold it accountable.
Right.
And walking them through that is, I don't know, having been a teacher for 22 years and never having any classroom issues, when I went and was trained and they brought up this teach to thing, I was like, oh my God, that's so simple. But just like, we used to do a lot of group things. I was avid. We did a lot of group things, and I'd say, okay, put your chairs into a circle. Mm-hmm. And they'd go, and I would just, stop, just stop. But I never told them how I expected them to do it. And it would drive me crazy. I mean, we're talking years, 10 years of it driving me crazy and not figuring out that all I had to do was teach them how I wanted them to do it.
Well, as a teacher, I mean, because I taught younger children for the most part, but as a teacher, it makes your life so much better and easier if you show them this is how I want you to walk in a line. This is how I want you to push your chair under. This is how, you have to do it, because, just the simplest thing, the most common little courtesy, some of them are not taught that at home. You have to teach what you want them to do. They don't know. They have no idea, most of them. So it just makes your life a whole lot better if you do that.
We don't have to repeat yourself as much.
No.
You're not as tired.
No. And you don't have to yell as, no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you can just give the look, because you've already taught it, mm-hmm. It's usually, we found that if they use the teach tos, it has cut down on discipline almost 70%. Yeah. But a lot of teachers don't feel like they have the time on the front end to do that. And you want to explain to them, you don't understand. You're never going to get to the curriculum if you don't get this under control.
Yes.
And the ones who have done it have said the same thing you said. It's clear.
You really, and I've stressed this to the new teachers. Well, this year is different, but in the other couple past years, I classroom management, which basically this is, if you cannot manage your classroom, you really are not a very effective teacher. You really can't be an effective teacher. You have to be able to manage the students.
Don't you, I mean, I've noticed, and it's not as frequent anymore, but the teachers that come out and they're just brilliant and they have their master's degrees in their subject or whatever, and they are just, they think they're rock stars, and you put them in a classroom with 25 kids, they get eaten up, because they don't understand what they're missing.
Yes. And then I see teachers that are like Svengali. I mean, they're so good with managing their classroom. And I have, and I'll send the new teachers to observe them, this is what you need to see. And they're calm, they're cool, they're collected, and they enjoy their students. Yeah, it makes a world of difference. It really does.
We've talked about, and this is what I learned, because I was a history major, but before NCLB, I was put into an English classroom. And so it was, everybody said, just stay one chapter ahead of the kids or whatever. But I realized that I felt like I was always pulling the wool over everybody's eyes because my kids tested well and stuff, but I couldn't tell you what I was doing. And I realized I believed in them and I gave them the confidence they needed. And therefore, they would do anything for me. They would go through a wall for me, and they don't want to let you down. And so it's so much that rapport and that belief in your kid, and more than knowing the topic. I can bluff on English any day, but building that rapport was key.
Yes.
I know that's
absolutely.
I didn't put this digitally. You can't see it because of my background. Let me hold on a second.
What is it?
Let me do something.
Steve, did you freeze?
No, I don't think so. Is that better? So now you can see. So Madera South High School has norms for the entire site. That's their expectations. So they want when you enter the room, or actually you're muting the mic all the time, keeping your camera on. They're asking the kids to limit their distractions by turning off their cell phones and that sort of thing, turning off the TV, avoid multitasking. So when they see kids putting their heads down, looking at something else, they kind of correct them. And then dress for the occasion. They want their kids to actually put school clothes on, even though they're at home. And that's their site norms. Now, what's interesting is that
I would love a copy of that, Steve, if there's any way.
I'll do that.
To go back to what you just said about dressing for school, I did have one teacher tell me that she had a student show up with no shirt. He just showed up. Yeah, he showed up for school with no. She said, "No, you have to put clothes on to go to school."
Oh my God!
I know, it's just crazy. Yeah, you wouldn't think you'd have to say that, but yeah.
And kids are in their bedroom and they're sprawled all over the bed and all kinds of crazy things. So they have norms and they're working at it. And then we talked about those teach-tos to establish those norms. But I was kind of curious as to where we were at. It doesn't sound like this common every school, well, at least this idea that South High School has the same norms for every teacher is not common. It sounds like most teachers are on their own and have to figure it out.
How come the Madera South hasn't been shared with the whole district? Like the whole district should be doing that.
It's above my pay grade. I don't know the answer.
It's a hypothetical question.
All right, let's see here.
So this is clear. The set high expectations. Next class, I was going to talk about differentiating within the virtual learning environment so that we're not, again, I think because we're afraid and we're unsure, we kind of just tend to go with what we know, which is talking. And, you know, we're not meeting those needs of each and every child or any child probably for that matter, but also realizing that, you know, if we know our kids well enough from the beginning, if we know them well enough, we can hit their needs, hit their interests, and keep them engaged, even in this distant learning type situation. Steve, you're killing me.
I know, it's bugging me because I'm seeing it behind me now, because I normally on the virtual screens, like my office is a mess.
So same thing. You know, what each child will measure as a success. An example that I use is 3S, like essay topic on whales, let's say. You know, the initial one would be basically tell me about whales, informational type essay. Then you could have for the next level up, you know, explain how the whale's traits are different from the shark's, or explain to me how this affects the whale's existence, whatever. It's a little more deeper thought. And then you get into the third one, it could be a fairly sophisticated topic, but it's all about sharks or it's all about whales, whatever we're talking about. So if I look at yours and you've got a really smart one, I'm not really going to know the difference. And I'm not going to say, oh my God, you're so much smarter than me. We're going to both be talking about whales. It's just my level of thinking may be a little less complex than yours. And in that, we're still holding them accountable. We're still talking about the same information. It's just a different level of critical thinking and applying the information. And of course, hold them to those goals, guide them in achieving those goals. That's where we talked about rapport early on. Just, you know, sit down with that child, have a little, basically like what we would have called a readers or writers workshop when we were in person, and have them share with you and obviously, reference, talk about it, have them think it out. Whereas normally we would probably either have the readers writers workshop or have them in small groups. You can't really monitor as well when you have to pop into different, so you might as well just have a one-on-one meeting with them. Or 2, 3. Choosing material. This one's a new one, and I've had to really think about that. If you go to the next screen, Steve, I stole this from the Avid site. because they obviously are on the cutting edge already of all this. I'm sure they've been thinking about it, but you have to decide what your objective is and what your problem is. So for instance, if we talked about the ecological situation in the oceans right now, I know that's the issue. So I can either work with my students to come up with a question that we're going to try to tackle and research our thesis, a sense. And then I can either tell them the tools, depending on their age. You know, you can go to this site, this site, this site, or as they get more adept at this, they come up with the sites, and obviously I'd have to approve them and what have you. But that's a whole nother level of thinking, right? Instead of me saying, hey, go to these sites, now you're taking it to the next level. Have them work independently and in groups, you know, share their information, lit circle, anything like that. And then it goes through, you know, I would have to model it. Again, teach to. This is how you would go into this site. This is how you would look for this. All that's got to be modeled. And I guarantee most of these teachers, they're saying, okay, this is a great site, and we're expecting all of our kids to know how to navigate it. And whereas 95% of them probably know better than we do, there's still 5% that are just going to sit there and be like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. And so we have to model. And we need to model how we're going to, what type of products we're expecting. Like, what are we exactly looking at? You know, and when we were in person, brick and mortar, we had rubrics, we had things like that. Well, technically we still need to have that, but it's going to be far more visual, and we're going to have to translate that for them because it's not going to be a given. And I think that's it. I mean, it's basically the same thing. And I would encourage teachers to focus on keeping the critical thinking as deep as they can get it. And collaboration, we kind of ran into an issue. Steve was telling me that some of the principals aren't letting breakout rooms, which I tried to think around that and how to deal with that. And I think when you've got a class of 25, 30 kids, I don't know how you're going to do that effectively without having small groups somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you come up with something, let us know, because I'm struggling with that. I think the fear that they're going to bully, that's our new reality. So we need to deal with that reality versus just getting rid of breakout rooms altogether. And
Farah, do you use breakout rooms?
I know the teachers that I'm seeing all use breakout rooms.
K through 7?
Mm-hmm. Through 8, actually.
K8, sorry, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they all use breakout rooms, and I think they have since, you know, they started out that way. So good. It seems to be working really well for them.
I did online teaching for several years, and the breakout rooms was so much more fun for the children too. Yeah. You know, working in groups, and they love, there's conversation. I always had to pop in and make sure we stayed on task. And they know I'm there, but I never say anything. And it's interesting. It's interesting too to see who takes the lead, and it's almost more fun to supervise those breakout rooms than in person, because they forget you're there and they have these conversations and stuff, and you get to hear it all. Whereas when I walk in physically, they know. The language changes suddenly. Of course,
I did. No, go ahead.
No, sorry.
No, I at the beginning of the year when the teachers first started using the breakout room, she said that at the very beginning they were just silent because they just didn't know what to do. You know, they would just sit there and not say anything at all. But now they're all chatty and, you know, sharing, and, you know, so it's working well for them.
There's training that should go into that as well. You know, give them something really simple in the group to do. And then we had to do that with tutorial groups for Avid, because again, you put 7 kids in a group, they're unless one kid takes the lead, they're all going to sit there and stare. And they're going to expect that one kid to do it all because they're
exactly.
has to be trained. So this is the depth of knowledge chart. I used to always do Costas because that was an avid thing, but this is the DOK. And, you know, the level ones, I always tell the kids, you can find it in text. It's yes or no. It's who, what, when, where, why. It's simple, not a lot of research. And then you go to level 2, it's another level. One of the guidelines I gave them was, you know, if you tell them it's a skill concept, they're just going to look at you with glazed over eyes. So I tell them it involves a little more conversation. Like, I can't just say yes or no. I have to defend my answer. And that's what 2, 3s, and 4s are. I want you to defend your answer. And in the beginning, I have them just think of a question and then put one of these words in the beginning, and it starts to click. Like they'll say, why did the wolf approach Little Red Riding Hood? And then I'd say, how about saying predict what would happen after the wolf ran into, you know, or predict or create a different ending to that story. Or I always tried to get them to interject just a different word. And sometimes it was just a matter of one word and it changed it to a whole new level. And eventually it clicks in their head. And then the level 3s are, you know, strategic thinking. Again, they're going to stare at you. But if you say, compare dolphins to whales and tell me about it. This isn't writing right now. You're just talking to me. Or tell me, hypothesize what would have happened if the wolf didn't show up at grandma's house. And so you're making them think, and a lot of them are going to end up drawing on what they know, which of course is part of what we want as well. And then level 4, I always tell them, it's called extended thinking, but I always said, how does it affect your future life or the world? And, you know, okay, like the fires or COVID, I tried to avoid that, but it always came up, was how is COVID going to affect our lives going forth? And of course, that's an easy example for them right now because it's so prevalent, but it's amazing what these kids come up with. It's insane. But so I don't expect younger kids to hit 4s, but then they surprise me because they're so much more compassionate and empathetic than most of the older kids. So, because I think we've trained them out of it. My assistant, this is a link to the strategies, and then Steve has some of them. Where'd it go?
Can you see my screen?
Oh, there we go. So we were talking about, these are strategies, the AVID strategies that are very common, which of course, you know, AVID, it's a lot of collaboration, a great deal of critical thinking. Actually, the whole thing is critical thinking, and then reading and writing. And we were talking about like the carousel, brainstorming, whereas in a regular classroom, they'd walk around and look at either a group. I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, so we get together and I want you to come up with the who, what, when, where, why of Little Red Riding Hood. And then we'd post it and everybody would walk around the classroom looking at it. But we were talking about how do you do that in the virtual world? And so we were talking about a Google Doc. And as a teacher, I could have each group's Google Doc as a link on my page and then click on it and go in and make their comments on there. So they can add comments that way. It's really just having to think outside the box and kind of create a different idea. The dialectical journal, again, put them in a group and they could do the dialectical journal. Each one of them has a role. You could do, one person does the graphic organizer, one person does a 1-sentence summary, and then they have to share that with each other and then report out. It's same kind of thing. It's almost easier than having them move, but it's such a different thought process. What's another one? Pair share. The parking lot. I don't know where I saw this, but you know, in the brick and mortar, it's that board and you just put your questions up. But you could do that with a Google Doc as well, each class, and have it as part of your screen on your share screen or what have you, or Google Classroom. And the kids can go in there and write these questions. And because it would be on a Google Doc or it'd be on your page, they all would see the questions. So it would be almost like a running dialogue or a journal type deal. Those are just some ideas. It was a matter of thinking. So this is one of my favorite things. So I teach a class on a program called OutSchool, and it's all critical thinking. I call it Project Think. And I get pictures off of National Geographic. And here's a picture. And so what I would tell my kids is, I want you to look at who, what, when, where, why. You're going to take 3 minutes. I want you to look at who, what, when, where, why. And of course, some of them are like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I just want you to, what do you think? There's nothing wrong, there's no wrong answer. I give them 3 minutes. And then they come back and I call on them. Okay, who do you think this is? And you'll get anything from somebody from the Middle East, maybe a priest. I mean, anything like that. They'll start to hypothesize. And then once one person talks, they all come up with crazy ideas, right? And then you go, what do you think's happening here? And I might prompt them, but I don't answer. Just kind of let them, kind of Socratic type stuff. When do you think this is occurring? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, look at the light. Let's talk about the light. Well, it's either morning or evening. Okay, good. You might have one kid say those look like prayer rugs. So maybe it's prayer time if you have an Islamic student in your class or somebody familiar. You can say time period and kind of explain it, which is a great intro to setting. And then you can say, what can you tell about where this is taking place? Does the man's clothes tell you where this might be happening? And they come up with, I mean, I had some crazy answers to one that I had like this, and I just went with it because the thing was, they don't have to be right or wrong. They're looking at the picture and analyzing it. Where do you think this is taking place? And why do you think he's doing this? Why did they take this picture? What do you think he's doing? And then I say, what level questions are those? And they'll usually say, oh, level ones. I'm like, yeah, that's boring, right? So then the second round of questions, I'll say, okay, I want you to look at this picture and what we just talked about. I want you to come up with, and it depends on the kids, but.
Uh-oh, we lost her.
Who?
You went mute.
I did? Am I back?
Now you're back.
So then I'll say, I want you to come up with 2 higher level questions. It has to be a 2 or higher about this picture. And so now they're kind of being introduced. I've already introduced the OK before this, but they go to analyze that, and then we talk about it. And usually it's a 1-word tweak, and we get them into 2s and 3s easily. It takes it takes practice, but they end up getting way into it. I had a picture kind of like this, and it was this really cool room, but it was a stone room, and it was a bunch of people in red, like waist skirts, and the kids came up with stuff, and I was like, you're so right. Like, that guy looks tired. That guy looks like he's, unhappy. And they were just going into it. They were looking at the faces and the light, and these kids were 4th grade. So I was pretty impressed. And this is one version of how to get these kids thinking deeper, and something so simple. Go ahead, Steve. And this was, Steve was using a video. Go ahead.
Use your head when you're online, most especially your mind. Think about the things you see. Ask good questions, that's the key. Use your arms when you're online to take a break and balance time and leave your tech behind. When you find yourself a tree to climb, from your head down to your toes, pause, think about it. From your feet up to your nose, pause and think online. Use your gut when you're online. Pay attention to its signs, know when it's safe to play. Make good choices every day. Use your legs when you're online. Stand up to bullies who cross the line. You can help friends big or small. Just lend an ear and stand up tall. From your head down to your toes, pause, think about it. From your feet up to your nose, pause and think online. Use your feet when you're online. Think about the tracks you leave showing friends respect and being nice on the internet. So think with your head, balance with your arms, listen to your gut, stand up with your legs, make good tracks with your feet, and feel with your heart. Just pause and think online.
That was a little different than I thought, but so for this, you could say, what do you think that, I'm a big, you'll see this in a minute, but I'm a big pre-write, post-write, explain, justify. So pre-write, what do you think the video is going to be about? I've done that with clips from movies. I did one with Dead Poets Society when they all stand up on the desks and all they see is the part where the kids start saying, my captain, and getting on the desk. And I said, what do you think's happening? And it wasn't at all what was really happening, but it was kind of cool to hear what they had to say. And all I did was start it and then I stopped it. And I said, what do you think this video is going to be about? And then we watched the video. And then I said, who, what, when, where, why. We went through that. And then I said, so now tell me give me a level 1 question. Give me a level 2. Oh, no, those were level 1s. Give me a level 2 question or 3. And then they sit down and they think, and they come back. We discuss a little bit more. And then I had them post-write. And sometimes it's 3 sentences, but the point is they're synthesizing what they just saw and they refer back to their pre-write. So what they thought it was going to be, did it really happen? I mean, that's all really cool critical thinking and making them think outside the box. It's painful at first when they all sit there and stare at each other or stare at you, but it gets there.
Nice.
Good. That's good.
And then the collaboration, we were talking about how to deal with the whole bullying or what have you. And, I think the biggest thing for all of us is to encourage them to teach to. Teach to so then you can enforce it. Everything on this slide we've already talked about. And I think, I'm assuming teachers are doing this, but I've noticed that even in-person brick and mortar, they don't always think about how they group kids. And so I wanted to encourage that when we group them or pair them, that it's thoughtfully and purposefully, and that we assign roles. We can't assume these students know. Again, they'll all sit and stare at each other and nobody will say anything, or they'll start talking about something totally inappropriate because they don't have any guidance. And so, I had to do that with high schoolers. Because same thing, one kid will take the lead and one kid will do all the work. So it's important. There's that stupid font again.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I think teachers, I hope they know, pop in as often as you can, cycle around, surprise them, don't do it predictably. And have an empty breakout room or 2. And if a child doesn't follow what your norms are and your expectations are, then they can go work alone in that group. They've lost the right to be a part of a breakout group. And I think that would, again, that's better in the classroom, right? We send them out. Some teachers send them outside, you lose them. But at least if they're in a breakout room, you could also go in there and have a little talk and make the child, or even if you're comfortable, stay in there for a few minutes and do it with the child. That way they're learning. They don't like it, but they're learning.
And that's also a good way of, we haven't talked about it yet, but using a refocus area or refocus time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to, that'll be basically the same thing, really. And then communication, I was often asked, what do we do differently that our kids do so well? Because we didn't teach to the test. And we didn't, in fact, I didn't even know most of the time what tests they were taking. It was just, I tried to get them to think and talk and communicate and be able to write. And so pre-write, post-write, everything we did, even if we did build a bridge with marshmallows and pasta, and it has to have 4 contact points or whatever, they had to pre-write it. What do you think you're going to do? What do you think some of the trouble is going to be? What are some of the ways that you see this working? And then when they were done, they had to post-write. Did it go as you planned? Whatever. The ask for justification was something that was really pushed, and I hope more people do it. I give you an answer. I want you to tell me why. or you give me an answer. I want you to explain it to me, and not just because. Give me justification, facts, and allow time for processing. I think, you know, how many teachers we've seen that can't stand the quiet. You ask a student something and for some reason you think that time is flying by, and so you either answer for them or move on. But we need to allow those students time to process and get up the gumption to answer us, which isn't always an easy thing. And the other thing I think is important for teachers to know is everything doesn't have to be graded. If you have them pre-write, you have them post-write, you don't have to grade all that. I think a lot of teachers look at that and go, oh my God, that's so much work. No, it's not.
Yeah.
You don't have to grade it. And then I put those points in. You know, the idea is they're synthesizing the information, connecting to previous knowledge. By them putting it into words, we're increasing retention, deepens their critical thinking and understanding. And when you have them debrief, again, they're connecting thoughts now to the new thoughts and the new idea and knowledge to the past, all higher level processes. And it doesn't matter what level they're on. That's the other thing. This is naturally differentiated. If they can't write, then we have them talk, but they're basically synthesizing the information. And ideally, that's what we expect. That's it.
Great,
That's it.
great. Just the three of us.
Well, fair is there, I think. And like I said, I put an announcement in every class with the link. And that's how you found us. I don't know. I think that part of the problem is we're not offering the units like we normally do. And part of it is, let me pause this record.